Hi folks, welcome back. Today we're going to look for land. Cheap land, or should I say inexpensive land. So if you're interested in property values for raw land, we're going to look at three different types. One is just going to be the land itself. Another type will have electric to it, and the third type will have both electric and water. So you're going to see price differences between the three of these. We're also going to show you some things to be aware of when searching for land to make sure you find land that's usable. Because if you can't use it, it ain't worth the money. Welcome back to the channel. I'm Tom Mason with West USA Realty, a family-owned Arizona-based brokerage here in Phoenix, Arizona, and surrounding the state. You ever thought about having your own little piece of property, your own little piece of the pie, something where you have the freedom to do with it what you want? In a previous video, I showed you how to start at lands.com, but today we're going to use the MLS to find some of these properties and investigate them a little bit closer. But before we do that, it helps me out quite a bit if you like this video, and even better if you subscribe. So let's make our way into the MLS and start searching for land. Here we are in ARMList, the Arizona Regional Multiple Listing Service, and we're going to go into Flex MLS. Quick search. I'm already in the land template. What I want to look for in this is land that is no more than $20,000 and of a parcel size that is at least half an acre all the way up to 10 acres. And when I do this search, you're going to find out I have 280 results, but around Phoenix, you don't see a lot of dots around here. We're going to go from 10 to 20 acres and see if we add any more. And we really don't. That's the max at $20,000. I'm going to deselect that. And then, because I want to focus around Phoenix, I don't want to be way far out of way, I'm going to draw a little bit of an area around here. I'll go out to Queen Creek, Apache Junction, go up to Cave Creek, and take a look at what's available. All right, so now we have a more localized area where you're going to have an easier drive into Phoenix if you choose to buy land in this area. I'll go to the list. I say I have 8 listings on here, but we'll also notice I have these $1 properties. What's that all about? Well, more than likely these are auctions. So we don't want to get involved with auctions right now, so I'm going to deselect those, go over to my selected list, and now I can take a look at land that's available. So the first one I'm going to look at is right here in Orangewood. Now, when I look at this, it says leased only. So I don't want leased land. I'll go over and I'll look for just sale. Now I'll go back to the list again, and you see we really only have 5. And so I'm going to deselect these $1 properties again because we don't want to get involved again with auctions. And instead we want to look at land that's available to us. So that gives us 2. One of them is right here in Deer Valley, which Deer Valley is actually really close to Phoenix. This area, you can see this dot, is this parcel of land. So number 1, look for those $1 properties. Those are probably auctions. Be aware of that. Number 2, when you see something like this in near a built-up area and it's only $10,000, you really have to do some exploration on it. And that's what we're going to do here. So what do we see? We see a sidewalk, and then I see a wash. I see water in that wash. Now, am I likely to be able to build in a wash? Well, you can, but you have to be aware of what's called the base floodline elevation. So a base floodline elevation, or BFE, and when I was in the military, BFE meant something completely different. And some of these properties will probably match what BFE meant for the military. But the base floodline elevation tells you how high you have to build the bottom of your structure. And you can still get permits to build in these flood areas. It's up to you though. Would you like to build in this wash? Well, another thing you have to do is check the details for this. So this is commercial planned area development, commercial zoning for mini storage or equipment rental. So again, some commercial is mixed in with the residential side of land. So we're going to take that off the list. The next one we have is 0 West Belote Road K in Buckeye. Now for this one, it doesn't say anything about commercial. In fact, it's zoned R43. If you watch my prior video on buying land, which I'll put up here somewhere, you'll know that R43 means that you can put 1 property per acre in this land. But when I look at the photos, I have another concern. This looks like river wash. I can see a little island here. There's river wash there. So where is this property exactly? Well, one thing I can do is I can go to Google Earth and plug that in. It's going to give me, it doesn't give me 0 West Belote, but it gives me West Belote. And West Belote, you can see this is built up. There's housing right here. There's actually down in this area a buffalo farm where you can get fresh buffalo meat as well. But that's not exactly where this property is located at. I have to zoom out and I have to find Verrado. And I'll tell you why I'm finding Verrado. So Verrado is up here. And this property is at the end of Verrado. So when I zoom in and I see this little bit of water and I see this island and I see this wash, this is where the property is. So again, up to you. If this is something you'd like to tackle, you'd have to find the BFE, then you'd have to get a permit from Maricopa County to actually build on this property. This search has not been very fruitful for something we can really build on. I'm going to go back to my edit, my search, and I am going to go a little bit farther, and we're going to go along I-10. And what that does is that still gives me easy access into Phoenix through the interstate. I'm going to stretch this out just a little bit and see what pops up. So now we go back to our list. Oh, no, we have a few more. So let me select these, deselect the $1 ones again. Go to our selected. We've seen Deer Valley, so we'll take that off the list. We've seen Belote. But now we have one on Reeser. And for Reeser, we find that we have 1.25 acres. It does say there's raw land. There's no water source. It does say sewer public out there, so there's got to be some development. No gas. There's electric within a half mile, but not directly on the property. And this one is for $18,000. And when we look at the photos of Reeser, you can see mountains in the background. There's mountains north and south of this area. One is Saddle Mountain, which is a nice place to find fire agate if you're a rock hound. And then north, there are also some other mountains actually leading to the Bighorn Mountain Preserve. You can also see there is some vegetation out here, which means periodically it must get a little bit of rain. When I look at the map, this will give us an idea. You can see a wash over here, so you know we're away from the wash. You do have some civilization out this way, so it's not nearly as remote as some pieces of property way out in the desert. You also see a lot of agriculture out this way. So now the next question on this property is, if we go to the detail, there's something called monsoon, which we can also look up. And with monsoon, we want to look at this code down here, FEMA code AE. What does that tell us, and what is FEMA code AE? So the FEMA flood zones are categorized with different codes. Coastal high-risk flooding is coded VVE, V1 through 30. This one we were on is high risk, showing AE. What we'd like to be is somewhere with an X, preferably zone C or X, because you have a low risk of flooding out there. With FEMA zone A's, you have a high risk of flood that has a 1 in 4 chance of flooding during a 30-year mortgage, and we did see that wash near there. So we know possibly that wash during monsoon season floods, and it may come up to the property that you're at. So again, for this property, you're going to want to look at the BFE and determine if this is a place that you'd like to build. So this will take us to our next available property, Clarendon Avenue out in Tonopah, Arizona. $20,000. It's $45,595, so a little bit over an acre, 1.0. Its zoning is R35, which means one property for every 35,000 square feet. There's no sewer septic, there's no gas, there's no cable, there's no electric, there's no sewer, and there's no water. If we look at the map, it's going to take us out again to Tonopah, where we're just visiting. Switch to satellite here. It'll give us an idea of the lay of the land. So we see a lot of agriculture out in this area. We also see Saddle Mountain over to the side here. I-10 will give you an easy way into Phoenix if you want to do some shopping. There's no photos available for this one. So here we found the very first one where when we go to monsoon, we have FEMA Zone X. Minimal flood hazard above the 500-year flood level. So this one at 19715 West Clarendon Avenue 30, Tonopah, Arizona is the first one we found with no amenities, no sewer, water, gas, electric at under $20,000. So let's move on now. We're going to edit our search so we can add electric. Because if I'm going to put a pump out there, I'm going to need electric. And we're going to put it on property. And when we go to our list, there's only one. That's the one in Deer Valley. So what else can we do? Well, I can extend this search a little bit north on I-17. I can go a little bit more south, and I'm going to go a little bit further out into Tonopah, almost halfway to Quartzsite, to see what I can see. And we do have another property that pops up along this corridor on I-10. Actually, two properties that pop up. Let's take a look at those. This one on Hoosman and one on Courthouse. Next we'll move over to Courthouse, also in Tonopah. Now this one, you can see this looks to be developed already. Well, let's go to photos and take a look. Nice views out there. With not a lot of photos available for this, let's take this over to Google Earth. Let's fly over to Courthouse from Gila River. And now we do see Courthouse Road is this main paved roadway here. Looks like just dirt roads that are being maintained, sometimes by the city, the county, or even the residents in this area. But you do have some neighbors out here. And here's a surprise. It shows that it actually has water on it. It says private, but most of the other properties in this area list city water. This is something that we're going to have to verify if we go to see this property. So we covered two of the pieces of land that we wanted to look at. One was just raw land, no water, no electric. The second one, which we found all the way out in Tonopah, has electrical. Now the one on Courthouse does say it has private water. More than likely they're having water trucked in, which is another possibility. EPCOR is a large water source here in the valley. Even in Sun Cities, it's a private water company that provides water to the Sun Cities through the normal taps. But for these rural areas, there are companies that will truck water into you as long as you have a storage tank that you can pump from. The last type of land we want to look at is undeveloped land that has water and electrical on there, and possibly sewer or septic already too, because a lot of times if they have water on there, they've already put in septic, and it may be close enough to other properties to have sewer as well. So what's the price going to be to find something like that? Let's take a look at the MLS again. Now we're going to add water. And we're going to make it on property. And you notice we didn't come up with anything new, so I have to go back and edit the search. Now I'm going to have to raise the price. Let's go up to 50,000. Click on 50,000. We get three properties that come up. Let's take a look at the list. And we see something new. We see this one on Piedmont at $41,000. First thing I'm going to do is check monsoon. It's AE. So I don't want to be in AE. I want to be in X. That's just my personal preference. If you want to be in AE or A or AO, up to you. So I'm going to go to 60,000. Now we have 6 properties that pop up. I can map those out. We have a few more out here in Tonopah. If I went through and checked each of these quickly, 1.5 acres out in Tonopah, vacant residential. Doesn't give me the actual zoning. So I'd really want to know that actual zoning. It is 6 acres, 50,000 for each acre. So if I take a look at the map, you can see we're actually in Coyote Ridge. Almost looks all agricultural. Doesn't look like this has been subdivided or roads been put in, but you never know until you check the deeds. If I go to detail, I'll go to monsoon. I'm going to check for, there is no FEMA code listed here. Interesting. So I'm going to go back to the report on this. I'm going to take this address, type in FEMA flood zone, go to the FEMA flood map service center, search by address, paste it in, search, and we see we are in a bit of a flood zone there. It actually shows zone AE here for this property. So again, if we want to avoid that, we have to go back to our searches. And I know this is seems like a long and arduous way to go about it, but this is what you have to do when you're searching for land. You have to make sure that it's something that's usable for you and something you might not need special permitting for. And we find sort of an odd-shaped property here in Tonopah as well. If I go to the map, I'll show you it's pretty close to where we were just at, north of the I-10. If I go to the detail, I see that it's showing 43,560 square feet. That's 1 acre. It also shows zoning R43, near Saddle Mountain Unified School District. So you have schools available there. This one shows a water source is a shared well. So you're going to have a shared well agreement. There's no sewer or septic. There is electric on the property, and the water, of course, is on the property as well because of the shared well. And if I check monsoon, what do I find? FEMA Zone X. So this is our first target right there. This part of the far west side of the valley here, but not quite as far away as Coyote Ridge was. So that's a benefit. Let's say I don't want to live in Tonopah. Let's say it's just too far for me to drive, and I would rather live closer into Phoenix. So what can I do? Well, what I can do is I can take this map and I can edit this. We see that Deer Valley shows up, but we don't want that one because it's in a wash. So what do I have to do to get closer? And I don't consider Black Canyon City too far from Phoenix. this New River area, but I'll pull that down just to New River, just to make it a little bit of a shorter drive, a little bit more compact, a little bit easier to get into town. What do I have to do in the price to find a property that matches what we want in this area? Well, there's only one result, that's Deer Valley. Let's go up 75. 75, now we hit 3. We're going to go back to our list, select these, take out Deer Valley, and we have 2. We have one at 46210 North 36 Drive. That's probably going to be in the Cave Creek area. That's actually New River. At 73,000, you can see an unbranded property website is provided for this one. Let's look at the detail. Let's go to the map. Let's zoom in on this New River area. You can see there's a lot of development in here. There can be some pretty expensive homes up in this area. And we can see these people spread out there. These look like some pretty good sized homes out in this area. So is there a requirement on what you can build here? Let's go to the detail. We see this is 54,000, over 54,000. It's 1 1/4 acre. It's zoned R43. So if you're willing to go up to 73,000 for, there's water on the property, there's electric on the property. County maintained roads. So if you're willing to go up to 73,000 for 1 1/4 acres and you want to be in the hills above Phoenix, this might be the place for you. So what do you think of that landscape? You have some rolling hills. I-17 is close by, so you can get into Phoenix fairly easily. So I hope this video was able to show you a little bit about how to search for land. And you notice we only looked at about 6 or 8 pieces of property here. This is what we do as real estate agents, try to save you some time, as we'll sift through these. Imagine if you had to look at all these on your own. It could be pretty daunting. And it took all this time just to evaluate all of these different properties to find out what we might want, from raw land to land with electric to land with electric and water, and to give you a sense of what it costs if you want to be closer to Phoenix rather than farther out in the desert. In subsequent videos, if you'd like, leave me a comment below if you want to look at properties that are way out in the desert. Maybe a cheaper price, but again, remember, you've got to haul equipment out there to dig the well, put solar if you're not going to have electric, dig your own septic tanks. All that is going to add to the cost of what you need to put into the land itself to make it usable for you. But on the other hand, there's always the idea of buy and hold. If you find land out there that's on a track, a development track, where you see new homes are heading out in that direction, might be good to invest in that property. But it's all speculations. It's all really what you're willing to gamble in that circumstance. Again, if you found this information helpful, please like and subscribe. If you have any questions, give me a call, send me an email, text message, smoke signals, carrier pigeon, whatever you have. Or just leave a comment below. Talk to you later.